guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bianca. If you're new, welcome. Today I'm gonna be doing a book haul. This is the majority of these books are books I got at the end of last year and a few that I've gotten since the beginning of this year. So the first book I have is a manga. This is Cutie and the Beast by Yuhi Azumi. So this is a very cute manga. It's rated teen. It is the first in the series. So this follows Momoka, who is a huge fan of wrestling. And her favorite wrestler is Kuga, who's known for being really tough in the ring. But when he steps out, he has a much softer side that not many get to see. So these two meet when Momoka sends Kuga a fan mail and they meet at an event. So it's a cute little beginning to what seems like a adorable romance. I very much enjoyed it and I cannot wait for the second volume to come out this year. The next two books I have are part of a series. This is the Charlotte Holmes series by Brittany Cavallaro. So this is A Study in Charlotte and The Last of August. These are two books I've heard a lot about. Obviously there's more to the series, but these are just the first two that I have. So this follows Charlotte Holmes, who is the great-great-great-granddaughter to the famous Sherlock Holmes, and Jamie Watson, who is the grandson of Watson, Sherlock's partner. So Jamie comes to join Charlotte at her school, and she originally wants nothing to do with him until they're both framed for a murder. So they join forces to clear their names. I have not gotten to this series yet. I haven't started it, but I very much look forward to getting to it. It is definitely on my top series to read this year. The next book I have is one that I have read. I finished it at the end of December. This is In Holidays by Christina Lauren. I really enjoyed this book. This follows Maylin Jones, who is going to a cabin in Utah with her family and some family friends. They go every year, but at the end of this year's trip, she finds out that the family who owns the house is selling, so there will not be any more Christmases at this house. So on the way to the airport from the cabin, she asks the universe, please show me what will make me happy. And the next thing she knows, there's a crash and she is back on the plane on the way to the cabin at the beginning of the holiday. So this is kind of like a Groundhog Day time loop type thing where Maylin is trying to escape the time loop and also figure out her happily ever after. I really enjoyed this book. I gave a review of it in my December wrap-up. Definitely recommend this. It's very good. The next book I have is another Christmas-themed book. This is The 12 Dogs of Christmas by Lizzie Shane. I unfortunately did not get to this in December. I have not read it, but it was recommended by Olivia Reads a Latte, and I found that I like a lot of the books that she recommends. So this was definitely one that I wanted to pick up. This follows Allie Gilmore, who comes back to her hometown for the holidays and unfortunately discovers that her grandparents' animal shelter is being shut down. So she has 4 weeks to find new homes for these dogs before they close down the shelter. And the new city councilman who voted to have the shelter closed is going to help her achieve that. And apparently there's a romance between the two. So I very much look forward to picking this up. So the next book I have is another romance. This is Love Unscripted by Owen Nichols. I just picked this up a few days ago. I read the summary on the back and thought it was really cute. So this follows Nick, who is a huge romance movie buff. He meets Ellie, who reminds him of different actresses who've starred in movies he loves. They get together and then and he believes that they have romance from the movies. He thinks everything is perfect until Ellie tells him that the fire's gone from their relationship. So Nick goes back to those movies and tries to figure out what is wrong with their relationship that he didn't realize. And in the end, he has to realize that love isn't supposed to be like what it is in the movies. And then this is real life, and he has to figure out how he can fix his relationship with Ellie. I have not, like I said, I just picked this up. I haven't read it. I very much look forward to picking it up. I think it's really interesting that these romance movies that we love are references for this guy, and he has to realize that unfortunately real life isn't like the movies, and you have to work at your relationships. The next 3 books I have are another series. This is the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. We have Truly Devious, The Vanishing Stare, and The Hand on the Wall. I have heard a lot of good things about this series. I think most recently I've heard that it's good from Mel Reeds. I also believe that Olivia Reads a Latte enjoyed this series as well. So this series follows C.V. Bell, who is a true crime aficionado, and she is invited to attend the Ellingham Academy. Now, the Ellingham Academy has a very mysterious past. Ellingham's wife and daughter were both kidnapped, and their bodies were never found. So there is a mystery going on. It's very interesting, and I believe these 3 books follow Stevie through her years at the school. This is definitely a series that I want to finish in 2021, and I very much look forward to getting to it. I've heard great things, and I can't wait to pick it up. The next book I have is one that I have finished, and this is A Nordic King by Karina Hale. This was highly recommended by Riley Marie. It is an adult romance. It's a steamy romance. So this follows Aurora, who is a nanny, and she comes to Copenhagen to be the nanny for Freya and Clara, who are the daughters of the King of Denmark. This was great. It took me a little bit to get into because it is first person point of view, and the point of view does change from chapter to chapter, but it's a great read. I very much enjoyed it. Definitely pick it up. Again, it is an adult romance. There are steamy adult scenes in it, so read at your own discretion. The next 2 books I have are a part of another series. The 3rd book comes out this year, I believe. This is the From Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So we have From Blood and Ash and Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. I have started From Blood and Ash. I have not gotten very far. I think I'm only on page 26. This follows Poppy, who is supposedly a maiden. I'm not sure about much else. I know there are adult scenes in this. I've heard mixed reviews, but it comes really highly recommended by Mel Reeds, and I really wanted to pick it up. So hopefully I can get back into this and finish it, but really looking forward to this. And I can't wait for the 3rd book to come out. And I believe Fairy Loot is doing special editions, and that is definitely on my to-buy list. The next book I read is, I believe, another one that was recommended by Riley Marie. This is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This sounds so cute. It takes place in a Renaissance fair, and it's like enemies to lovers, so very interesting. So this follows Emily, who is roped into volunteering at a Renaissance fair after moving to help out her sister, where she meets Simon, and I guess they get off on the wrong foot, but as they're playing their roles at the Renaissance fair, things start to change, and they get together. I cannot remember if there are any adult scenes. I haven't picked it up, but I would go into it expecting some. I'm not sure though. The next book I have is one that I'm really interested in. I'm a big history buff, so this is one that really interested me. This is Romanov by Nadine Brands. So this follows Anastasia Romanov, who was a Russian princess when her family gets chased out of Russia. So this is a fantasy twist on the story, or a supernatural twist on the story. In this book, there's magic. Anastasia is charged with smuggling an ancient spell out of Russia, I believe, in her suitcase as they're exiled to Siberia. I've always loved the story of Anastasia, all the mystery that surrounds her death and the murder of her family. So this is definitely something I wanted to pick up, and I loved the tagline on the back. It says, "The history books say I died. They don't know the half of it." So I believe there's a romance in this also, which is something I love. So it's definitely one that I want to get to. This next one is not really part of a series, but kind of like, I guess you could call it a prequel. So this is How the King of Elfham Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. This is a beautiful fairy loot edition with a custom cover, beautiful sprayed edges, gorgeous end papers, an embossed cover, and there are also gorgeous illustrations. So this is a collection of short stories about Carden from the Folk and Air trilogy. So this would be The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and is it The Queen of Darkness? I don't remember. But so this is a gorgeous edition from Fairy Loot. And I have not finished the trilogy yet. I definitely wanted to finish it before picking this up. I've heard mixed reviews. Some people loved it. Some people, it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. But it's definitely one that I want to pick up, but not until I finish the series. The next book I have is Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young. This is the same author that wrote Fable, which was one of my favorite books from last year. So this is kind of like a Viking tale. I believe, I don't know too much about it. I believe it follows Elin, whose clan is going to war. And on the battlefield, she sees her brother, who is supposed to be dead after a fight with the enemy, and he is on the enemy's side. I believe there's a romance in this. I don't know much else, but I loved Fable, so definitely wanted to get into more Adrienne Young books, so I picked this up. So one of my goals for this year was to read the Erin Morgenstein. She's a very popular author. I've heard a lot of great things about her writing, so I definitely wanted to pick up some of her books. So the first one I got was the Starlight C. I've heard great things. It's got books in it, which I love, books about books. One of my favorites from last year was Sorcery of Thorn by Margaret Rogerson. So I definitely knew I wanted to pick this up. So I don't know too much. Again, I know it's about books. So this follows Zachary Ezra Rollins, who I believe is reading a book in the library. And as he's reading it, he realizes that this is a story about him and about something that happened in his childhood. And he goes on this adventure, and that's about all I know about it. But I've heard great things. It's definitely one I want to pick up. So I got this one. The next book I have is another book about books. This is The Book Jumper by Mechtild Glazer. I probably butchered that. I'm so sorry. I've heard about this book. It is a gorgeous cover. It was mostly a cover buy, but I have heard about this book. I haven't seen it a lot on BookTube, but it is definitely one that I want to pick up. So this follows, her name is Amy Lennox, and it follows her. She can go into books. Amy and her mother move back to her mother's childhood home, Lennox House. When they arrive, Amy's grandmother insists that she reads, but not in the normal way you would think. Amy can actually jump into books and interact with the characters in those books. So as she's doing this, she realizes that things begin to start to go missing from the books she's in, and that somebody's stealing from them, and they may be after her, and her life may be in danger. So there's not much else I know about it. It sounds really good. I think that book jumping is something that's so interesting. It reminds me of another series that I love. It's a middle grade. It's called The Book Wanderers by Anna James. And I started reading that middle grade series last year and I loved it. I have one more book left and I cannot wait to get to it. So this is definitely something that reminded me of that and is definitely one I want to get to. So this book, next book, is by the same author and is another book about books. This is The Forgotten Book by McCutcheon. So unlike The Book Jumper, this is not about a girl who can go into books. This is about a girl who finds a book in a library and anything she writes in the book comes true. So this is about Emma, who is very used to things going her way. Her father's the headmaster of a prestigious boarding school that she goes to, and everybody pretty much does what she says. But she finds a book in the library that when she writes in, everything she writes comes true. But she's not the only one who knows about this book, and this follows everything that happens as she's trying to protect the book and keep it out of the wrong hands. So again, I love books about books. This sounds so interesting and intriguing, and it is definitely one that I'm looking forward to reading. So the next book I have is one that I finished in December. This is The Christmassaurus by Tom Fletcher. This is the first book in the series, I believe. So this follows William Trundle, who is a little boy that asks Santa for one thing almost every year. He wants a dinosaur. So he wakes up late Christmas Eve night to find a dinosaur in his room. So this book follows his journey as he helps this dinosaur get home and tries to protect it from somebody that's trying to hurt it. This was an adorable read. It really took me a while to get into, but I was able to finish it on New Year's Eve and I very much enjoyed it. It's cute. This is a middle grade. It's got big letters. It's not that long. It has beautiful illustrations in it. So it's definitely one that I recommend. And I kind of want to read the next book, so we'll see how that goes. The next book I have is the first book in an upcoming series. This is Rebel Rose. This is the first book in the Queen's Counsel series. It is written by Emma Thoralt. This follows Belle after she marries the Beast and gets her happily ever after. So this follows her as she takes the throne in her kingdom. So Belle is struggling. Being a queen, it's not something she really saw herself doing. She's always wanted to escape her life and find adventure, but this was a little more than she was aiming for. So this is Belle as she struggles to take her place as the Queen of France, or Paris, her kingdom in France, and to prevent the war that's starting, I believe. The second book in the series comes out this year. I'm not sure who it's about, but I believe the series is following the different Disney princesses after they get their happily ever after, and we get to see the life they get that follows what they believe is happily ever after. So this is definitely one that I'm very interested in. I always wondered what happens after happily ever after, and can't wait to see how this goes. The next book I have is not one that I think I've seen a lot of on BookTube. So this book is This Is My America by Kim Johnson. It's definitely one that I was very interested in reading when I heard about it. This follows a 17-year-old African-American girl who keeps writing to the Innocence Project so they can help her father, who is on death row for a crime he did not commit. And he only has, I believe it's 275 days left before he is set to be killed. As she has that going on, her brother is then arrested for the murder of a white girl that he also didn't commit. And she is struggling to deal with all of this and try and get her family back together. I love this cover. It's gorgeous. I think it's amazing. I think it's a very relevant story. What really caught my attention was just this blurb on the back. They look at my father and think murderer. They look at my brother and think thug. They look at me and think I'll be quiet. They are wrong. So this is definitely a book that I want to pick up. The next book I have is one that I've heard about on BookTube. I'm not sure where I first saw it. This is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. This follows Bae Schumacher, who is a plus size fashion blogger. This is kind of like The Bachelorette type book that I think is really interesting. Again, the main character is plus size, so she makes a comment about how there are not plus size bachelorettes on this show called The Main Squeeze, and as a result she is invited to be the next bachelorette on this show. So I guess this follows her journey as she tries to find love in this situation. I think this is a great concept. I think it's very interesting. You honestly don't see a lot of plus size women on those reality TV shows where they're trying to find love, and I think this will be very interesting, to say the least. So I do look forward to picking this up. The next book I have is a thriller, which is really not a genre that I kind of gravitate to very often. I'm more of a romance, fantasy, paranormal type reader, but I've heard great things about this author and it's definitely something I want to pick up. It seems very interesting to me. This is Final Girls by Riley Sager. I believe I heard about this from Olivia Reads a Latte. So this follows the final girls, who are the girls that are also still alive after the end of like a violent killing spree or something. So this follows Quincy Carpenter, who survives a traumatic experience, and she is the final girl. She's the only survivor out of her group of friends, I believe, and she is approached by another final girl who has also survived a situation such as hers. I believe that she mentions that she's talked to somebody else who has survived similar situations, and then that girl dies. So they're trying to figure out the mystery, and this quote on the top in this book I think kind of sums it up. First there were 3, then there were 2. Can there only ever be one final girl? I think what really intrigues me about this is that there is a movie called The Final Girl, and it is about a teenager whose mother unfortunately dies in a car accident, and her mother's biggest claim to fame was she was kind of a scream queen in a B movie. And when her daughter goes to see that movie in theaters, something happens and she and her friends end up in that movie. And so her daughter ends up being the final girl and surviving and getting all their friends back into reality. So I like the connection between the two. I love the movie, so I definitely want to pick this up and see where this goes. Again, this is one of my first thrillers. This is my first adult thriller. I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I think is kind of a thriller YA type, but definitely something I want to get into, and I've heard great things about Riley Sager, so I'm interested. So the next book is one I got in a Fairy Loot box. It was December's Fairy Loot book. This is a gorgeous copy of Master of One by Jada Jones and Danny Bennett. And it's got this beautiful cover. It's got gorgeous sprayed edges. It's signed, embossed on the cover of the book, and gorgeous art on the inside of the cover. There's not a lot I know about this. Like I said, it was a Fairy Loot book. I believe it follows a thief who is called on to complete a mission where he has to collect 6 Fae relics, only to find out that these 6 Fae relics are actually people, and that he is also in danger. But luckily he is smart and he is wily, and he makes a plan to get all these people out of danger. So this is one that seems pretty interesting to me. Again, I don't know a lot about it, and I kind of like going into books not knowing a lot about them, but I'm interested to see where this one goes. It's a gorgeous copy. I love the sprayed edges. They're sparkly, and it's one I want to pick up. The next book is Lead Leaf by Crystal Smith. So this follows Princess Aurelia, who has blood magic, but she's not allowed to use it. And she is the princess to a kingdom that doesn't want her. So she is forced to flee her kingdom after an assassination attempt. So this does have some romance as she's forced to leave her kingdom. She's forced to disguise herself as a peasant, and she discovers a life that she would never have been allowed to live had she stayed on the throne. And it is a life that she loves, but she realizes that she has to go back and she has to take her throne so she can protect her kingdom. This is a gorgeous cover. I don't think it was a cover buy, but it was definitely something that caught my attention. It's been on my wish list for years, and I finally picked it up, so it's definitely interesting. This next book is one I've heard great things about. It is a relatively new release. I think it was published last year or the year before. Okay, it was published in 2019. This is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This follows Alex Chamberlain, who is I believe she's an influencer, a blogger, or whatever. She's also a mother. She has 2 kids, and Alex is shocked when her babysitter is confronted at the supermarket with her toddler because she's a Black woman with a white child. So this follows that controversy. I believe goes deeper than that from what I've heard. I believe that's just like the tip of the iceberg. But it is something that I want to read. The final book I have is another Fairy Loot edition. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, which is something I'm very interested to see how it's done. This is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. It is a gorgeous Fairy Loot edition with the sprayed edges, the custom cover. It's signed and has gorgeous art on the inside of the cover. So this, like I said, is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, follows Juliet and Roma, who are former lovers, I believe. So it's kind of like a lovers to enemies to lovers type situation, and they are members of rival gangs in 1920s Shanghai. So this does have some supernatural, paranormal twists to it. There is kind of like a curse going around that is causing people to die, and in order to save their territory or their town or whatever, Roma and Juliet have to put their issues aside, put the guns aside, and work together. So this is definitely something I was very interested about. We got it in the Fairy Loot. I wanted to read it before that, but I've heard great things, and I cannot wait to pick this up. So those are the books, most of which I got at the end of last year, a few that I picked up right at the beginning of this year. I very much look forward to getting to all of them and getting to read them. They all seem very interesting, of course, to me because I bought them. So I will put all the information for these books down below, along with any booktubers I've mentioned. Please subscribe. Let me know in the comments any new books you've picked up, and I look forward to your recommendations. See you guys in my next video. Bye!